Hello and welcome to the first ever The Parenting Business, a podcast by myself, Stuart, and my good friend Ben, who are both dads, both business owners, and we'll tell you a little bit about us, why we're doing this, and you'll have to excuse it because we've never done podcasts before. So let's give it a go.
Completely.
Ben,
Yes.
tell me kind of who you are, tell everybody kind of who you are and your background in business.
Okay. Well, to begin with, I'm fat, bold, and 40, so nicely middle-aged with a varying experience as good and bad. I basically, and I thought about this a lot recently this year. I'm a little boy who likes strategy games, and there's an element of, I believe, insecurities which caused me to not so much follow in the family footsteps, wanting to reach out on my own and do my own thing. So I drank too much in my 20s and did all the usual yobbish behaviour, and then settled down in my late 20s when I'm now married to her all these years on. And I started my first little venture, I think I was 24, 25, and in the outdoor sector, which 2012 was the wettest year on record, so we gave it a good go, but decided not to bother for the next year, and started manufacturing textiles with a pair of kitchen scissors and a sewing machine I bought with no Barclay card. A couple of years later, a few years later, 2016, I think it was, 2015, 2016.
Your good old flexible friend.
My good old flexible friend, which still isn't paid off, but it's another long story. There's two types of people that you sort of come across, or that I've come across. There's people who read, think, and tend not to do anything because they're through fear of the journey that lies in front of you, or failure, or fear of getting things wrong. And then there's people who are the polar opposite. Don't give it too much thought. Crack on, cock it up. Excuse the expletive. Learn some lessons and keep going. I'm very much in the latter camp. So we grew nice and steadily for several years. Got to just over £1 million, 1.2, something like that, before the chickens came home to roost with some of the issues I had created. We gave it everything, gave it a good shot, but inevitably I hit the wall. And when we restructured, all of a sudden business became very easy because we've already ballsed up so much. You learn your lessons, and when you go again, it's almost too easy now, which I don't like to admit, and touch wood, we don't know what's happening around the corner. But in a nutshell, that's me, Stuart, as you know.
Yeah. So just tell me, what were you doing before 2012 when you started with your kitchen scissors making stuff?
2012 was when I was throwing people down a hill inside an inflatable ball, which was Rutland Water at the time, and they had expressed a desire that this activity is probably the word. There's myself and a friend of mine interested in teaming up and doing it. He dropped out, and I think, well, sod it, I'll give it a go. Don't have a huge amount else that I'd sooner be doing, and it was a lot of fun. I learnt the importance of paperwork and cover your own arse, so to speak, because there's inevitably have people trying it on, and being organised, which I was anything but. Yeah, some good lessons learned on that.
Yeah.
The main reason
that's really interesting. I didn't realise that you started in the outdoors the same as I did.
Yeah. Well, the main issue was it was
in that time that we've known each other.
It's been a year.
I never realised that.
Well, it was the wettest year on record, and we had started in March and ended in October, and we had 4 or 5 months of basically making nothing. The sun shone in August, and we raked it in August, and September wasn't bad. But it got to October, and we spoke to the owners of the reservoir around the activity. It was like, look, you've not really earned much. You've done it on a shoestring budget. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we should continue. And I said, I definitely don't want to continue because I've got nothing to do between October and March. And we didn't earn too good the first half of the year. So it kind of taught me not to engage in a business which I had no control on the weather. And the weather meant very, very much dictated how much we were going to earn or how little we were going to earn. So I actually wrote a list. I got myself a normal job for a little bit and hated it. And I wrote myself a list on the left-hand side of the page was things which I was capable of doing. In the middle of the page were things which I enjoyed doing. And on the right-hand side of the page, of the two, where might there be an opportunity? And one of the skills I had, because I was into sailing boats an awful lot, still am, but I was into sailing boats a lot in my youth. And I learned to make sails for yachts, square rig ships, traditional. If you've seen Captain Hornblower, I used to make those for a firm for a couple of years. And wanting to be back home in Nottingham with the family, there wasn't really anybody around here making covers for boats. So I started with that, although it had the similar echoes of when the sun shines, there's money to be made, and in the winter you sit around scratching.
Yeah.
We kind of flipped to industry after a season of that. And that's about it, mate, really.
Yeah. So I didn't realise that you started in the outdoors. We've known each other, what, 2 years-ish now? Couple of years now, and I never knew that. I knew that you'd done some outdoor stuff, but I never knew that you started working in the outdoors, chucking kids downhill, because I started working in the outdoors, chucking kids up rocks.
Very similar things. Well, I was a sailing instructor.
Yeah.
I got through college and didn't fancy university. I just fell into teaching kids to sail boats and drive power boats and windsurfing. So from that little, I don't really know what I want to do with my life other than drink too much and do stupid things. I kind of felt it. I fell my way through it.
And it's interesting because we, business-wise, as we've kind of said before, we have similar paths. Although when you said 2012 made me feel old.
Yes, you are a lot older than me, aren't you?
I was chucking kids up rocks in 1998.
Yeah.
So it makes me realise that I'm a little bit older.
Well, you've not gone bald yet,
but definitely no wiser.
Yeah.
I started my business for myself properly in textiles, in manufacturing, in 2010. So only a couple of years before. But started in dog equipment, leads, collars, harnesses, that sort of stuff. And then kind of went on and went through peaks and highs. And then I suppose when we met, we were in a similar situation business wise, where certain bubbles had kind of gone a little bit pop, but we were still wanting to make things work in a new way.
Yeah, I mean, yourself and 2 or 3 others were the therapists I needed at the time. It's quite a lonely, daunting experience. And I guess this is the motivation for me wanting to do this with you.
Yeah, and I think that's the same for me. It's, I had my business challenges, and it comes on to the other bit, at the point when I was, had just become, or not long become, a dad.
Yeah.
So I became a dad quite late in 2021, effectively COVID baby, and I was already 42 at that point, so already in my early 40s, and trying to run a business, trying to be a dad, and then going through personal stuff as well, mental health stuff as well, and realizing that there was no support, there wasn't a lot, and it was just such pressure. And that was kind of my sentiment, or my reason for thinking, actually, we need to do something about this to support people, parents, or share with parents that actually they're not alone. Because I think the same as you, that the fact that we met and we were going through similar situations, we're both parents, so we kind of understood, and hearing some of the challenges that you were going through, and maybe vice versa, that I was going through that you heard, I suppose gave us this common interest. I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, totally. I think you know this one. I decided there was kind of no way out other than to fold and restructure my business totally at the same week my son was born. So it got to the Tuesday, I think it was, I spoke to one of my creditors and they said, sort of, no more payment plan. We've got our own problems, which you think, bloody hell, we're making so much progress and starting to slowly, granted, but slowly turn the corner here, and then to hear that one, it kind of rips the energy out from underneath you. Well, that was the Tuesday, and my son was born on the Saturday, so it was very much
Yeah.
up in the air, worrying time. But no, there's 2 or 3 of you. I actually went to see, I don't know if you know, I went to see my biggest customer at the time, still is, and got to the point where there's not a lot I can do here. I'm going to let you down. I'm gutted to let people down. Just to go back over, I don't regret much about what happened, because what I learned is immense. It's better than any university. But the fact I let people down, I'm still a bit gutted by. Anyway, I went to see a customer of mine, absolutely mortified, and I went into his little place like a dormouse and all so sorry, and I don't know what to say, and I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried this, I've tried everything I can think of. I'm fucked. I'm so sorry. I just don't know what to do. What do you want me to do? I'm so sorry, sort of thing. You know, his response, he just looked at me and I says, don't worry about it. Same thing happened to me a decade ago. You've just crashed a car, find a new car, get up to speed, and we'll get through it. And
Yeah.
he had more faith in me than I did at the time, and we did. We got through it. We found a new car and said to him, I said, well, I could have been money up front ready, because I can't. I'm fucked without it. And he went, yeah, no problem.
And I think,
Done. You're back on your
yeah,
feet.
I
Bit of help,
went
bit of
through the same.
turmoil, and you go again, and you went through the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went through the same. It wasn't, my situation was, yes, I'd got a child who was under 2, but I was myself and my daughter's mum were struggling a lot. She was struggling a lot with her mental health. I was struggling a lot with the pressures of running the business. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't work out between us, and it was very, very difficult between us. And for me, I think with that pressure around there, my mental health at the time, trying to put so much into the business whilst being a dad, whilst being a parent, but ultimately, yeah, the business went pop. And I think it was really strange, because I spoke to a customer of mine who ended up good customer, someone that had become a good customer, and funnily enough had become a good customer through a friend of mine's business going pop. And I explained to him the situation, and he said, well, you know, I need you to keep supplying me. How can we make it work? And he'd had a business go pop many years ago and had restarted a new business. And he actually said, here's the number of the administrator I used. He was brilliant. And I phoned the administrator, and it was really interesting. The relief when I phoned the administrator and he explained to me, look, this happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the end of your life. We will work through it. Yes, it's horrible for you. And I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. I was distraught. My whole life was falling apart. And I'd suppose a little bit like you started with your kitchen scissors. I started making stuff on my kitchen table. And I'd been running for 13 years-ish, 14, nearly 14 years, and had something that was doing very well, exporting all over the world at its height. And then I suppose my whole life imploded. But he just said, look, my job is to take the pressure off you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
we came up with a solution. I got a new business partner who was really supportive, understood things. I spoke to people, and we rebuilt, something new in a slightly different direction. And, that was brilliant. We started something new, and that's kind of where we came up to today. So the
Oh, yeah.
pressures, yeah, I feel what you went through.
Well, the
Tell us and me, and I suppose the listeners, a little bit about your situation and becoming a dad, because obviously you were going through all of that, and your little boy was
becoming a
born literally that. But
just prior to that, I had about 5 members of staff at the time when I became a dad, and it was October 2021. My twins were born. So I've got 4-year-old twins now. And the issue, throughout the pregnancy, we had something called restrictive growth syndrome. So we had 4 months of going in to see specialists during COVID, 4 months going to hospitals when nobody was meant to go into hospitals with your partner or your friend. You go alone, all that stuff. Well, we were one of the along with people who sadly weren't going to make it out of hospital. We were allowed to go in. My wife was allowed to take me with her because of the seriousness of it. It's at fetal care. It's at the ward, and we were scans twice a week, and sometimes it was so with restrictive growth syndrome. If you think identical twins share a placenta, non-identical twins have a placenta each. So identical
Okay.
twins, when you share a placenta, Jasmine, one of my twins, had the food tube, the gene tube, going straight into the middle of the placenta, and Poppy, the other twin, her food tube and gene tube, for want of a better term, went into the side. Jasmine had 80% of the placenta, whereas Poppy sometimes not just wouldn't grow, she'd go backwards.
Mm.
So at the time, I had me 4 or 5 staff. I didn't have a manager in place at that time. It was me. So trying to juggle everything then is probably one of the bigger challenges of my life. How we grew at a reasonable rate that year is absolutely beyond me. It wasn't that much that I did because I wasn't around. So it's huge testament to my team during that few months. It all kind of blurs now, but you get to the point where it's money. What's it matter when you're going through that with one of your child, albeit unborn? Scary. Twice a week, every week. Are we going to have to go for a selective termination? Tough. Bloody tough.
Yeah, and it's
3 4 months. That one, which obviously ended happily, thank God, but it was scary.
yeah, and I must admit, the twins are amazing.
They're fantastic,
Uh,
absolutely great,
they're
absolutely.
absolutely brilliant.
They were born premature. Because the doctors got to a point where they were happy birthing, and from which then they could control the weight. So Jasmine was born at £5 and Poppy at £3. But 4 years down the line, they're identical twins, and you struggle to tell them apart. Lucky man, all's well that ends well.
But how did that affect you? With all that going on and trying to run the business, you said you've got you were fortunate at that point. You had a good team around you.
I think there were weaknesses in the team as well, but I think most people cared and sympathised with the predicament I sort of found myself in. So I'd go in at 8 o'clock every day, reply to whoever needed replying to, organise whatever needed organising, and then it was right. I've got to go. Bye. And
Yeah,
at 8 o'clock the next day. And some weeks, don't get me wrong, some weeks it was fine because the doctors told us about a good week, and you just kind of build yourself up a bit. And other weeks was disastrous. It was just right. I'm not coming in today. The worst might be on the cards. I'm just fuck it. You're gonna have to deal with it. Tell people I'll get back to them. So you say, how do you get through it? You just find a way. It's human nature just to keep going and find a way a lot of the time. So I don't know how I found a way. And it's a bit gutting when you hear people who, I don't want to be too dark on that very first episode, but people who are struggling and contemplate suicide.
yeah.
How do you get to that
And
point?
us, I'll be very open
Mm.
because I am open to it.
You are.
I got to that low point.
You told me.
I genuinely got to that proper low point where thoughts crossed my mind when everything was and it was such a struggle. And I suppose it took me a while to get through things as well. And I think that's where I realised there was so little support or knowledge of support for mental health around parents. Originally I talk about men because I'm a man, but I think parents in general. There's lots of uh, stuff that talks about mental health, but when you're a parent, certainly a new parent,
Mm.
you've got potentially a family relying on you, and you're trying to also manage a business, whether that be a business owner or very senior in the business where your actions can make or break the business. I think when you've got that feeling of pressure from all sides, and yes, I say because I'm a man, but it can happen to mums as well as
Of course,
dads.
it's human beings. It's not just the male half. However, I dare say males are more likely to bottle things up and let it get to them. And I'm being slightly judgmental there without knowing the facts, but I certainly bottled things up for
No,
long.
but I think you're quite right there, because there is this whole stigma, I suppose, of
Mm.
men suck it up and get on with it,
Yes.
and don't talk about it because that makes you weak. And
Other
I
way around.
think
Yeah.
I felt that a little bit as a male, that I was there to be the provider.
Yes. And I get where you're coming from. The one thing I want to mention there is just be selective who you talk to on things. There's a saying, and I love me sayings, you'll probably
Yeah,
gather as we go along. Talk to people who have played on the pitch, not those watching from the stands.
absolutely.
So me and you just kind of hit it off because you've been through where I was, a little bit different circumstances, perhaps, but you've been through similar. When you're going through a tough time or a good time or need advice or whatever, please talk to people who's been playing on the pitch, not just those
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
shouting from the stands their opinions when they might mean well or they might not mean well. But if they've not been there, keep asking round.
And I think that's something that's really important as well, in that we were fortunate, because at the time, I thought nobody else can be going through the same as me,
Kiss.
or the same sorts of things. And actually, we then met,
Did.
a completely chance meeting, and
Yeah.
suddenly realized that actually we're going through, not everything's identical, but we're going through similar things. And I suppose an element for me was, actually somebody else is going through this. I'm not the only person going through it.
And when you look at the statistics of insolvencies for 2024 or 2023, they're at record highs. We've all got COVID debt, or
Crazy.
we've all got this, or we've all got issues there. And most, I think it's 7 out of 10 startups fail within 5 years anyway. If
Yeah,
Richard Branson can struggle with Virgin Cola and have to cut his losses, then what the rest of us got to be ashamed of? It's learning experience. Chalk it up to, as long as you learn your lessons, chalk it up to experience. Well done, you tried. Most people
yeah,
who criticize haven't even tried. So we're not
absolutely.
we're not going to take criticisms for people who have tried less than I've failed.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And again, when I spoke to the insolvency practitioner, who was absolutely great, and he gave me an indication of how many, companies he had on the books at that time when he was going through insolvency. We were talking hundreds, and that's one insolvency practitioner. And he'd got hundreds and hundreds of businesses all going through insolvency at the same time as me.
And even when you start back up, when in your restructured form, you kind of think, these suppliers not going to trust me again. My reputation's tarnished. And the first thing your suppliers do is, it happens all the while. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Sign it. You
Well,
get.
I suppose, some of mine were understandably annoyed, and I was like you, I was genuinely gutted,
Mm, mm.
absolutely gutted, because, I've had customers go insolvent on me over the years, and effectively, I've lost out on money, and you try and remain philosophical, but there's a bit of you that's kind of, oh, come on, this is going to have a massive impact on me. But when you're the one that effectively is, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, taking money off a supplier, and you feel properly remorseful and absolutely gutted that it's happened. I think suppliers see that,
Yeah.
and they understand that y it wasn't deliberate.
Who's going through the tougher time, you or the supplier?
Yeah, yeah,
The people who plan it, I think, understandably, there's a special place in hell reserved for them. When you're planning to
yeah,
rip somebody off, or if people keep making the same mistake over and over and over, you want to give them a bit of a shake. But no, people said to me, "So look, you were honest with us. We trust you. You were honest with us. You've not done it on purpose. You got yourself in a mess. You were trying to get out of it. Done. You made things worse, perhaps thinking you'd get out of it if you'd have cut your losses a year or so previous. Because the big thing that scared me is when you sign a form that says your house may be repossessed if you don't keep up your payments, they mean that. They
yeah,
really, they really, really mean that. and that was the
They
scary.
certainly do.
Um, but accommodations are found because they don't want to see you go bankrupt either. If you go personally bankrupt, then they're forced to accept practically nothing. So if you do find yourself in
So
that situation, you can negotiate your way out of it. You might need a bit of help to navigate it, but that's what I did.
yeah, yeah. So if there's one piece of advice you could give to a business owner at the minute, a business owner, a parent, because more often than not, and I know this is kind of a relatively sweeping statement, but by the time you get to kind of my age, your age, lots of business owners are parents as well.
Hmm? Yeah.
If there's one piece of advice you could give them if they're struggling with their business at the moment, because as a lot of business owners are, what would it be?
Stay calm. Talk to us. You would not have been through something that somebody else hasn't already been through. Seek out that
Yeah.
person. Stay calm. Seek out that person. A low point of my life was in the coming days after, and I genuinely thought I was going to lose my house. I'm in a ball on my kitchen floor sobbing, and my little girl wandered in, and one of my twins toddled in, and just gave me that look of, to see me in pieces. It scared her because I'm normally the rock for the family. So that was a upsetting hour or whatever. But there's not much you can't pick yourself up from. You might need some help to do it. It's not a sexy thing for people to be this thing. You get help for an awful lot of things when things are going well. You get awards and applauded and
Yeah.
isn't everything wonderful? Wearing your little dicky bow and clapping at a gala dinner. That's not what business is. For me, it's not what people are. And like you've just hit the nail on the head. When the reason we're starting this, there's not a lot there for those that are struggling at the minute. And if there's something people can do to improve the mental state at troubling times, you might find a few less insolvencies. Not enough
I think,
people have got robust plans for me, but that's another subject. But if you're
yeah,
meant,
yeah, and we can come on to that at
we
another
can come on.
episode because I think that's planning is really important.
Mental state means a lot.
Yeah. I think the thing I learnt from it
Ooh,
was if you're struggling, acknowledge that you're struggling, and it's better to make the decision early than late.
I was too late making that decision. I thought I could get out of it, and I had a
Me
chance
too.
of getting out of it. To be
Yeah,
fair, I had a reasonable stab again. Now we were improving, we just weren't improving by as much as I needed to. We were profitable when I
yeah,
went under. It was the debts that, when we took a dip in orders at one point, we couldn't service the debt.
yeah, yeah. And I think we were very similar. I was very similar, that it was the debts and the interest on the debts that were causing the issue more than the business. And I think that's why, I think both of us effectively ended up with another person that was interested in supporting us and,
Yeah,
you know,
and
being a new business with us at the time, out of the fact because they saw the potential had it not been for the debts.
yeah, as you know, I had a friend of mine who came on board, and I had a couple of options in the end. I had a few people who were a little bit interested, but there's one particular old friend of mine who was really, really keen. He ploughed a few quid in and turned us round, and then
Yeah.
decided it wasn't for him, so it kind of worked out. But it's amazing.
Yeah. And I
Find a
think
way through things. If you keep your head up, stay calm. Don't be afraid to talk to people. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's that
Shame.
because I bottled it up. I didn't talk to anybody because of that shame thing.
Mhm.
And I think actually there is no shame.
No, you tried. Most people don't try.
What was really interesting for me is when I told my parents, and my dad was very successful in business, a lot of work into it, was very successful. And when I told him that, the business was going to close, was going to go insolvent, I'd tried everything I could. And they knew that the business had been struggling a little bit, but I'd been kind of powering it on. My dad actually turned around to me and said, "I think that's the best decision you've made all year."
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. 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 Wipe the slate clean
Yeah.
to some extent.
So
It's, isn't it
yeah,
such
well,
a weight
that's
off your shoulders? Isn't it such a massive weight off your shoulders?
And I think that's the thing, when you talk about it and you accept it,
Yeah. For me, it was like,
yeah,
I've got,
the weight just goes away. Okay, there's some other things that kind of crop up a little bit as you get, which you have to navigate, but then there's the support out there to navigate those as well.
and for me, it was just, I can go, I've got a clean slate. And I did what I'd done previously, what I said at the beginning. I wrote that list again.
Yeah.
What am I good at? What have I got going for me? Where are we at? And it was carry on doing the same thing you're doing, because a large part of the market still like me and trust me. I was honest
Mm.
with people, and if they trust you, they'll stay with you, even if you've been through shit.
Yeah.
We kept
Yeah.
95%
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
customers after going through that. There's only a few that left
Yeah.
of their choice.
And
There's a few
so
that left.
after all of that,
Yeah.
and I've not asked you this recently,
Oh dear. Go on.
how's your mental health now?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Don't really know how else to answer that one. It gives you real perspective for life when you think, I spent years, 12-hour days, 6 days a week, struggle. Why? Because people who work in their businesses don't often work on their businesses, and they don't see the wood for the
Yeah.
trees. And again, that's probably a topic for another day. But once you step outside that circle, forget, I've got wonderful kids, I'm happily married. What a lucky man.
Yeah.
And I do kind of see the world slightly differently now. When people say, what's your targets for business? Well, we're going to Disneyland next year. And they go, no. What's your target in your business? We want to go to Disneyland. Our
Yeah.
target is keep the sales book as full as you can to get the orders in, get the guys in the factory efficient, get the products out the door, stay out of debt. I earn more money now than I ever have because I get a wage every week. Then there's profit to share at the end of it. After our little restructure, the customers which sadly we didn't make much on, or the ones that struggling themselves, so we often didn't get paid, we don't do that anymore. So we kind of
Yeah.
find them other solutions. I didn't just tell them to bollocks and sod off. It was like, well, sorry, it's not for us anymore, but try this person, go see that person. I did right by people as best I could. I don't chase money very often. I used to chase money a hell of a lot. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody or any industry, but there's some industries that operate on thin margins. Well,
Yeah.
when the economy struggles like it does at the minute and work slows down, those thin margins become quite worrying, quite concerning. And guess what? The knock-on effect kills people, kills you, kills businesses, just the knock-on effect.
And are you finding that that's helping you be, better parent, if you like?
Yeah, because I'm there more. Not very
'Cause
often.
you said before that you weren't there a lot. Yeah.
Not very often I think about work after 5 o'clock. Not very often I think about work at the weekend. Very rare. So yeah, a lot better. We have time to go
Yeah.
to places. We can afford to go to places. We didn't take them out for the day before, couldn't afford it. So
And I
yeah,
think
a lot better.
it's interesting you're saying about, couldn't afford it before and so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, you don't need money or saying this, that, and the other, but it's really interesting because it's the time. For me, it's the time thing. It's not about, and I know this isn't what you're saying, but it's not about specifically going to places or being able to afford to go to places, but it's the time it frees up, the quality time, whether that's going to places or whether that's staying in, and playing games together or just going to the park or,
Yeah, I mean,
that sort of stuff.
when you think before we'd stay in, obviously couldn't afford to do anything, but you'd be sat on your sofa stressing.
Yeah, yeah.
You sat cuddled up watching, I don't know, Snow White or whatever. You'd be stressing. Now we
That
sit
was
on the
just you. What were the kids doing?
yeah. Now you sit on the sofa watching Snow White, singing the songs along because not a huge amount. We've all got problems, but it's nothing in comparison to what they were. It's nothing in comparison to most people. I dare say you feel broadly similar.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think it allows you to be more present,
Good way of putting it.
actually present in the moment. I think that's the thing for me, that it's a change. So coming on to the podcast, I suppose we ought to talk a little bit more about kind of what the plans are with future podcasts. We've talked about kind of us, and I suppose started on what might come across like it's a real downer, but I don't think it is. I don't see it like that. I see it as a turning point, and actually, we both spoke up. We both took control back. And actually, although that was really difficult at the time, the release, once we'd got that control back, was, changed both of our lives, I think, for the better. Yeah.
Agreed. It's liberating. Although you've still got some problems to mop up and issues to resolve.
Yeah.
We can move on. We can turn the page.
Yeah. So I think talking about, we've spoken a lot about, what we're looking to achieve by having, the Parenting Business as a podcast, because it's about being a parent. It's about managing businesses, and kind of juggling the two, and the effect that having both of those can have on you. I think what we are going to be looking for, and I know we've chatted about this, is find out about you guys, the listeners, the people watching, the people out there, and what your life is like, what challenges that you might be having, and good news stories, how you've overcome things, how you've got through different challenges as a parent, as a business owner or manager, how you've balanced the two, but then also kind of some of those fun things that have happened out of it, some of those crazy stories, silly stories.
Yeah, I mean, but how to balance it's interesting. As you know, my little boy tripped over his feet almost 3 weeks ago at nursery and had blood radiators.
Bless him.
That was on the week when my factory manager was on holiday, so I was in holding the fort. And although we were on target, there's still pressure was on to get the work out the door. And what do? You got to take the little boy to A&E before you do anything else. Of course you have. And then it's trying to spin all the plates, because the market doesn't tend to care about your problems. The market cares about your ability to deliver.
Yeah. And I must admit, when I saw that message from you, that WhatsApp picture, of your little boy, and not what I planned to be doing on I can't remember, was it a Tuesday or something afternoon? It was a Friday.
Luckily, and Friday.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, that is a classic. Owning a business, being a parent, and no matter what happens, it's weird, the most important thing of being a parent always trumps business.
Of course it does, as it should. Of course it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
But too many issues, the market will just move on and find a different supplier. It's juggling act. Although you'd always be forgiven the odd time, life gets in the way. But make a habit of it. If your shop's closed too many times, when a customer wants to come round, they won't bother coming round again. Juggling it.
Yeah, and
it's hard.
A story for another time, but actually, I was in retail. In my previous business, I had a retail shop, and those sorts of things do affect it. That's not for now. I'm sure we'll come across it in kind of future episodes and things, and we'll chat about that. But okay then. So anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, if you want to get involved, in fact, not if you want to get involved, we want you to get involved. We want you to talk to us.
We've want you stories.
to.
We want to hear yours.
Yeah. Well, we want to know your stories. We want to know if you've got challenges that maybe you need support with. Maybe that's not from us. Maybe that's from other people that are listening that can give support. And we want to find out about your lives as a parent, your lives as a business, in business, that sort of stuff, your history, everything about it, how you're affected by different things. So you can leave us a message. Don't forget to also hit subscribe and follow us, because the more people that follow us, the more people you tell about us, hopefully we'll get a nice community going. Everybody can support each other, work together. Just before we go though, Ben, it's budget this week. It's really funny that you and I have been talking about this for a long time.
A lot of people have
And
been
the
talking.
day we record the first ever episode,
Yes.
is the BBC spent the whole morning on breakfast talking about mental health and how to improve mental health, because we're on this all-time low. And we've got a budget coming out on Wednesday, which we're going to run a bit of a bonus episode, which we will record immediately after the budget. So hopefully we'll be available on Thursday this week after we've heard all about what she's got to say. What do you think, or give me one thing that you think is going to happen in the budget?
Well, for me, British industry is braced for impact. We're all bent over, spread eagle, waiting to be rogered by whatever it is she's going to come up with. I'm just glad we can get on with it, because there's an awful lot in people's order books not coming through. That puts jobs at risk just by delaying in business confidence. I think she'll freeze income tax thresholds. She might not raise them. I think she'll freeze the threshold. I think she's coming after property in one way, shape, or form, because they always bloody do. It's an easy way.
So that's your prediction.
I think so. It's an easy revenue earner, because you can't pick up your house and move it abroad like you can pretty much everything else. It's tough because they've leaked so much. They've leaked. We might do something on gambling. We might do a mansion tax. We might do this. We might do that. They've leaked so much over the last couple of months. It just goes to show that they don't know what they want to do. There's no rough.
Shall I tell you what I think?
I'm very keen to hear what you think.
I think she's going to raise VAT.
Very inflationary at a time when inflation is already 3% plus.
It is. But I think, within the UK, we've got one of the lowest VAT rates in Europe.
Yeah, but it's also one of the things she promised.
I think I think she's promised a lot. She's promised a lot, and she's gone back on a lot. And I think my prediction is she's going to raise it. I think the Bank of England will kind of see that it's necessary, and I don't think it will have as big an impact with Bank of England rates. I think they'll be kind of sympathetic to it, but I just think that's what she's going to do.
The interest rates has been coming down because it's had to try and stimulate a bit of demand. It's not something the Labour Party can take as a win. It'll be interesting. We'll see. I'll be watching. Yeah. I'll be watching on Wednesday dinner time, and we'll have a chat about it Wednesday afternoon.
I'll have it on, and we will pull an episode together, a bonus episode after the first ever episode. I think that's
spoiling everybody.
I'm not sure any other podcast has ever done that.
I wouldn't know, but I'll take your word for it.
Right then. So if you're listening, or what do you mean if you're listening? That was silly, wasn't it? Of course they're listening if they can hear me talking. Yeah, you're obviously listening. So please make sure you hit subscribe. You tell people about the Parenting Business podcast, and you follow us, leave us a review. We know that this was a bit of a haphazard first episode. We are not experts. We are just two guys, a little bit rotund around the middle, that have gone through some stuff in business and as dads, as parents, and kind of want to have a chat about it, want to share experiences, talk to you guys as listeners, and get involved. So don't forget to hit subscribe and ping us a message. You can message us through Spotify. You can leave a message on the message board on Spotify. We'll pick those up with any questions, any thoughts. If you're interested in coming on, then ping us a message and we'll see if we can get you on a future episode. Anything more from you, Ben?
Not at all. Have a nice, pleasant evening and a good day tomorrow.
Brilliant. You guys, thank you very much, Ben. Let's see if we can make this a movement, and we shall speak to you soon. Join us for the next episode. We will be back out with a new episode probably on Thursday this week, I expect, after we've heard what's going on with the budget, and hopefully it's not too blunt. We'll see you soon. Bye.